Tell me what the sales process was like. I mean, being able to go out and say, yeah, we've built this product and we've got Square as a customer, that's got to count for a lot in terms of walking into the door with some credibility and some proof. But what kind of challenges were you having to deal with when it came to selling? I'm talking specifically about like, were people getting this thing? How were you pitching it? Were you saying employee experience platform then? What was the response like? Were people like, God, we need this, we'll be waiting for this, or it kind of took time to get these people to kind of, close the deal?
Yeah, it depends on who you're speaking to, which is obviously a sign of like product market fit, right? In terms of what segment, what persona, and exactly like what we were pitching. So the first lesson there is like having a brand name logo and great like customer references saying this thing just works for us, just is not close to enough. It might get you in the door, but it's not close to enough in terms of, making a sale. I think any buyer, anytime, but certainly when times are tight, is considering what is the value proposition for me and my business at this time. We over-indexed, I would say, back in those days on, don't you want to be like this company? Look how great things are. And it's like, well, we're nothing like that company. That's great. But we're different in all these different ways in terms of our processes and the way we work and what we actually value at this time. And so that's where we really started learning a lot more in depth the breakdown of like user personas in this complex sale. In this process, in terms of going from like 1 to 10, I found myself in with a unicorn company in their room doing a late stage demo, and I thought it's a really important one, so we wanted to bring the whole company in. So all three of us, we wanted to come in there. We show up to this room. It's the biggest one they've got on their corporate office floor. And I was shocked to see 20 people in the room on the customer side. We've got folks like the CEO, the COO, the CMO, a lot of folks reporting into them, internal communications, IT, HR. And I thought, well, this is great. Clearly, we're onto something. Clearly, we're so important that it's worth all these folks' time to be on here. What I realized over time is actually all of these people represent, from a sales process perspective, they represent friction in terms of actually getting to the initial point of value. So the time to value is delayed even further. And these are the classic, let's call it issues or challenges with enterprise sales, right? So that was a true education for me. And I think earlier when I said, Ryan and I are sort of a classic sort of founder combo product engineering, so what you end up, I think for most startups, the riskiest part of the company is the parts where the founders don't have experience, right? It would be great to have a 10-person team and you've got a world-class designer and salesperson, marketing, ops, et cetera. But usually you see the gaps coming out based on the gaps in experience that the founding team has, right? And the more of it there is, the more of it reveals itself. For us, because we were working with one customer, we had a relationship, we were really going in depth on the product, we're solving those problems. We got to focus exclusively on our strengths for those years, right? So then after that, all these details, right, were things that were an education in real time. And so there was this one stakeholder level question, because we have a multi-stakeholder product where we really need to identify, depending on the company, who cares the most and how do we lock that in sooner and versus rather than later. So that was a big education for us in terms of whether it was resonating in the market or not. Another piece of it was really like size, right? Company size. There's certain challenges like this around communication, culture, alignment, and productivity that really become a big issue at scale. So we were really negotiating and understanding what is the actual company size where the value really resonates for us. And it was a little bit like trial by error, but even though we had our hypotheses. And then a last piece around just sales process learning in that pathway from 1 to 10, I guess I would say, is that every company is a little bit different. And when you're trying to sell, an enterprise-wide value proposition, it is really helpful to understand their worldview And that's where we got to this lesson of really what we're doing is resegmenting, rethinking an existing market versus trying to create something brand new. So there was an evolution there for us as well, which is, I used to use a lot of fancy words, but now I just say, hey, yeah, do you have an intranet? Yes, no, we can replace that. This is a better way. This is the way that modern companies use it, right? Do you have spreadsheets that you use for your onboarding process? Great. We can help you like save time. So just simplifying that into language that individual stakeholders can really relate to, versus the grand vision, which I still like hold on to. And that's what our marketing website is painted with. It's a very different game in sort of hand-to-hand combat with sales.